about wastewater. What a topic. It is, as you know, front and center in the public square on Cape Cod right now. I'm Jo Bernstein. I am on the board of the League of Women Voters. Our president was unable to be here today, so I'm filling in for her. The League, as you may or may not know, was formed as an outgrowth of the women's right to vote movement. And one of its main functions is to encourage candidacies, encourage debate among candidates, and debate on the issues. In addition, Cape Cod Area's League has been very involved in specific issues that are important to the Cape. We have an environmental study committee whose current task is to examine what we can find out about wastewater and how to deal with it on the Cape. Hence our panel today, and it's great to see such a turnout of people who understand that this is a critical issue for Cape Cod. Our speakers today all want the waters to be clean in the bays, the marshes, the ocean, and the aquifer. And our problem is that Cape Cod is a very fragile environment and is having trouble dealing presently with the degradation of our water resources caused by the ever-increasing amount of wastewater. And this is a problem facing us all: water drinkers, fishermen, our summer visitors who like to frolic, and even those of us who live here who like to frolic in our waters. Many well-informed people, such as our speakers, have wrestled with this problem and have proposed potential solutions or approaches to solutions. And we are here to gain greater insight into the complex issues encountered by these experts in seeking solutions to the problems posed by wastewater. Each speaker will have 15 to 20 minutes, and we've got little cards to remind them in case they have too much to say. And the reason we're limiting that is so that we can be sure that we have enough time for questions. We have a videographer here who will have a tape of the session, which will be available for public use, for private use. And how are we in touch with you?
You'll be receiving DVDs later in the week, and it will also be posted on your website. Okay, thank you.
Our speakers today, starting on your left, will be Paul Niedzwiecki. He's the Executive Director of the Cape Cod Commission. The Commission is the regional land use planning and regulatory agency created in 1990 to serve its citizens and 15 towns of Barnstable County. Next to him is Dr. Brian House. He is a professor at the School of Marine Science and Technology at the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth, and he is director of the Coastal Systems Program. To your right, we have Corin Peterson. She's a lawyer, and she's Vice President of Advocacy for the Coalition of Buzzards Bay. The Coalition is a membership-supported nonprofit organization dedicated to the restoration, protection, and sustainable use and enjoyment of our irreplaceable bay and its watersheds. And on your far right is David De Lorenzo. He's from the Bureau of Resource Production of the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection. The Bureau of Resource Protection is responsible for protecting critical inland and coastal water resources, controlling point and non-point sources of pollution, safeguarding public drinking water supplies, ensuring public access to the waterfront, and administering revolving loan programs that help the state's towns and city improve their environmental infrastructure. This is a fabulous panel. Please welcome them, and Paul, will start with you.
Thank you very much. I am Paul Wyswicki, Executive Director of the Cape Cod Commission, and I have a PowerPoint presentation. As long as I don't get in the way, I think we'll be okay. And I want to thank the League for having this forum. The Commission is actually engaged presently in a watershed tour. We've done 5 so far. I think we're actually in the Herring River this week on Thursday night, discussing the problem and really the implementation. I'm glad that we have the panel that we have here today. We've got the doctor on the right, and he's going to discuss the problem. So I have some slides in there that relate to the problem, but we're going to move through those pretty quickly. Hopefully that will shorten the presentation this morning. But this is basically a Cape-wide presentation. When we do the watershed tour, we single out individual watersheds. We meet with those people in their watersheds. And it's been a really important thing to do. And we've got a lot of great feedback so far. So getting to know your watersheds. The map behind me right now is a map of the Cape that you recognize, but it's broken down into its major watersheds. There are 57 major coastal watersheds identified on the Cape through the Mass Estuaries Project. 46 of them are nitrogen-sensitive areas. You see the colors behind me, though. That's why this map is so important to us. Those in blue are watersheds that cross town boundaries. Those in gray are those watersheds that are wholly contained within one town. 2/3 of the watersheds cross town lines. So when we think about the most efficient way to solve these problems and the least costly way to solve those problems, it's difficult to imagine that 15 different solutions are going to produce that result that is both effective and not as costly as it needs to be. That's backwards. This is the problem. So the doctor's going to spend more time on the problem, but basically the problem comes from septic systems in our watershed, on-site disposal systems. 85% of the households on Cape Cod dispose of their wastewater on-site.
Paul, if you'll just move 6 inches to your right, you won't be blocking the slides.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Steve. Give great direction. Septic systems in our watershed. And so when we talk about the problem, there are many different sources of nitrogen, but you can see Cape-wide the number that jumps out at you, that 80% of the nitrogen produced from on-site disposal systems. So that really is the nature of the problem. To make that case at the Commission, we use these McConnell land use maps, and these give us snapshots, basically decade-long snapshots that start in 1971. Clean Water Act was passed in 1972. So this is the Cape in 1971. This is the Cape in 1985. And this is the Cape in 1999. And you can see the green are open spaces, the yellow areas are residential development, and the red areas are more commercial development. So you can see 1971, 1985, 1999. So you can see how much population has grown over that period. Primarily residential development, most of whom dispose of wastewater on site. So from 71 to 1999, if you look at developed parcels, and the increase in the parcels that were developed over that time period, 72%, that's across the Cape. And when you factor into that equation, huge areas like the Cape Cod National Seashore and the Mass Military Reservation, it becomes an even more daunting percentage. Why do we care about this? Well, Cape Cod represents 2/3 of the Massachusetts coastline. We're talking about the health of our coastal waters right now, especially on the Cape where our economy is primarily driven by a seasonal economy. The health of those bodies of water are essential, and they're important to the economy here. Additionally, we basically are on an island. We're not 15 towns in some amorphous conglomeration in the middle of the state or in the middle of the country. We are basically 15 towns on an island, on a sandbar, and we draw all of our drinking water, almost all of our drinking water, from beneath our feet. So it's drinking water resources and the sole source aquifer, which is replenished primarily by precipitation with 6 separate lenses, and is really the sole source of our drinking water. And the watersheds that we're going to talk about now really follow that groundwater model. It's almost like a topographic model, and the water flows on top of it. So you can see the big mountain area by the Mass Military Reservation. So that's our aquifer. And these are pictures that Dr. House is going to go into probably more in depth. These are MEP watersheds identified by those that need the most nitrogen removed from them. So the darker colored watersheds need more nitrogen removed from them. These watersheds are all broken down into sub-watersheds. So you can see those big watersheds identified by the percentage of nitrogen that needs to be removed on those watersheds where we have reports. And then you can see the density located in each one of those watersheds. And this is the result. This is Prince Cove in the Three Bays area in Barnstable. So we can see the problem.
you.